Hello, explorers, and welcome to Reach the World's Explorer program. For more than 25 years, Reach the World has sparked student interest and curiosity, bringing real-world adventure, fresh perspectives, and career pathways into K-12 classrooms through virtual exchange. My name is Tim, and for those of you who have been a part of Reach the World's incredible world of plants virtual exchange since the beginning, today is a little bit bittersweet. It's our last time traveling virtually to Berlin to connect live with our amazing Fulbright U.S. Student Program researcher friend, Ellie Kreider. We're going to miss her so much, but we're not done yet. There's a lot more to learn from Ellie today. Have you read Ellie's latest virtual exchange articles about her everyday life in Berlin, her visit to a Christmas market, and even her goodbye reflections? All of those and much more can be found via the virtual exchange homepage link I've shared in the chat on the right-hand side of your screen. We've got a great group of students joining us today, and I can see Ellie standing by backstage in a very interesting looking location. So let's move to the main show and welcome back Fulbright researcher Ellie Kreider. Hi, Ellie.
Hi, guys.
Hey, it is wonderful to see you. How are you?
I'm good. It's getting quite cold in Berlin now, but we still have had very little snow. So I'm hoping that we'll get a white Christmas, but they say that we won't.
Well, I think between our classrooms who are joining us today from Pennsylvania, Vermont, North Carolina, we might have a few classrooms who can relate with cold weather coming in. And speaking for myself in Illinois, we've gotten a lot of snow, so it feels very holiday-ish around here. But it is great to see you. I am first and foremost very curious to know, where are you right now?
So these are the greenhouses of IGZ, the institute that I work on. And these are the, shall we say, the non-confidential greenhouse rooms. So here is where they grow a lot of ornamental plants that they don't use in experiments. So you can't really see behind me, but these plants here are plants that they grow like herbs like sage and oregano to give out at events and things like this. But there are other experiments happening in these rooms very similar to this.
Very cool. And even though it is getting cold outside, those plants are still growing all right in the greenhouse. Can you just describe at a basic level how greenhouse supports the growing of plants like that, even in cold weather?
It definitely keeps it warm. I'm feeling a little bit warm myself here. The glass amplifies the sun and traps the heat inside, so that the warmth is kept from the sun.
All right, we can see that sun right over your shoulder. It actually looks like a very nice evening there in Berlin where you are. We've gotten some great updates from you over the last few weeks. You've been on a lot of adventures, I would say, that are outside of the scope of your work. You've been to a Christmas market. You've been sort of checking out Berlin quite a bit. And one of the things that strikes me is that you're always looking for plants. Even when you're eating, you're like, look at this plant. It's helping me sustain myself and eat. Can you talk a little bit? Let's start with maybe the Christmas market, because I thought that was very interesting. Can you talk a little bit about what it was like to go to a German Christmas market and what sort of plants you encountered while you were there?
Yeah, absolutely. When I went with a friend the first time I went to a Christmas market, and I was like, do you know what kind of conifer this is? And he was like, no. So I taught him all about the distinction between firs and pines. There are many different types of plants that have cones. And we say that we have a pine tree in our Christmas room, in our living room when we have a Christmas tree. But usually, in the America at least, it's usually a spruce tree. And in Germany, they say that it's a fir tree. A lot of traditional Christmas trees are also considered fir trees, but again, usually spruce. So it's always fun to see what they actually use despite what we're calling it.
And what was your favorite thing to do at the German Christmas market? Did you have a favorite activity or anything that surprised you?
I think just like walking around and seeing the scope of like the scope of warmth there, like everything is shining and lit, and all of these yummy smells coming from everywhere. It's amazing to me to go. You go from one stall to another, and they're selling a completely different cuisine. So you have Lebkuchens in one stall, and then the next stall it's crepes from France, and the next one is again like some type of Indian food, maybe, you know?
Yeah, you mentioned Lebkuchen. What's Lebkuchen?
They're like a gingerbread, except they're made with anise. So you guys know the taste of black licorice. This is the main flavoring in black licorice is anise seed. So it's traditional German Christmas cookie, kind of.
All right. Just another way that plants are influencing our tastes of the holidays. Fascinating. And I want to touch on one more thing because I think especially all of our great students, I see such eager faces waiting backstage to ask you their questions. You had some visitors in Berlin. Can you tell us about your special visitors in Berlin?
Yes, my father and my sister came to visit me. This is going to be the only visitors I get for my entire 10 months here. So it was very special. They came in between Thanksgiving and Christmas so that they could spend some quasi holiday with me somewhere in between the two holidays. So we made a bunch of our normal Thanksgiving meals, mashed potatoes. We didn't have any turkey, but we did have some tofu. And then we went around to a bunch of different places in Germany. So we went hiking at a national park in Germany, and that was really cool. We got to see some of the more and I especially enjoyed it because Germany is very flat, so you start to see how plants kind of you see different plants at altitude, right? And because they survive differently with different levels of oxygen and different moisture contents. Usually on the top of a mountain, you get less moisture, more wind. So I'm always on the lookout when I'm going to places like that. And same when I went to Bavaria for like new plants that are adapted to those climates, because I think that's super cool.
And very cool. When you're hanging out with your dad and your sister, are they like anticipating that they're going to learn a lot about plants no matter where they go and what they do, and they're hanging out with you?
They spent the first the first day away from me. I was at work, and then we got together afterward, and they were like, hey, we have some pictures of plants we saw when we were out. And my father thinks that this is this plant, but I think it's this plant, and we're going to show you because you'll figure it out. But I definitely have had times when they bring me to a botanical garden. They're like, okay, a whole day of it.
You're their built-in expert, and you've been that for us too. You have inspired us to look for plants and see the ways that plants impact our everyday lives. And I think the best way to sort of show you that and to lean into our final video call here with you is that we need to answer a lot of student questions today. I know that over the course of the last few weeks, especially, we've talked about a lot of things. You've shown us a lot of things. We've answered a lot of questions, but I know that there are more. And today's really about getting students to a final chance to ask all their questions to Ellie. So I'm looking at our backstage group, which is an amazing group of students. And where should we start for questions? I see a lot of fist pumping and arm raising in 4S, in class 4S. So why don't we bring them on to the camera? They look very excited to have won the first question honors. 4S, if you have a question that you would like to ask Ellie, please go ahead and unmute yourself and dive right in.
You want to come up here, bud?
What sort of plants do you experiment with?
I experiment with a small weedy plant. It's called Arabidopsis. It's not a plant that you would see out in the wild, but we keep it in the laboratory because it's really easy to grow. It's really easy to manipulate. So it works really well for experiments.
Could Arabidopsis get special mutations to survive in that cold?
That's a good question. There have been lots of people who have shown that Arabidopsis tends to adapt very quickly to different climates. They'll take Arabidopsis that's common in, let's say, Missouri, United States, and they'll move it to Siberia, and within a couple of generations, it seems to thrive. So this is maybe good news for other plants that maybe they can adapt easier than we think they can, and survive the changes that our climate is undergoing. Absolutely.
Clementine, you want to come up?
Yeah, good questions. Let's keep them going.
So how do you? I know that there are like some plants that like figure out how to survive in the cold. Do you know how they do that?
Well, mutations, everything, even we have small mutations in us from our parents, and every time our cells divide, there's a chance of mutations occurring. And when those mutations are advantageous, so when mutations help the plant survive, then the plant will be able to produce offspring, more offspring plants that are struggling, and eventually those mutations will become commonplace. So for instance, have you ever noticed that conifers or evergreen trees, like pine trees, they keep their needles even in the winter?
Leaves.
Exactly, because the needles are a type of modified leaf that's like really adapted to, they're better for cold environments because they don't freeze as well.
Thank you.
Another question? Who has not asked a question yet? You asked one last time?
I have.
You have an answer? Come on.
What is the weirdest plant mutation that you have seen?
In my lab or just in general?
Probably in your lab.
I work with a lot of mutated plants, and I love it when the plants, they sometimes they lose their balance, I guess, and they'll grow up, and then they'll just grow down like this. And sometimes they only grow leaves. I wish I had pictures to show you. Sometimes they only grow leaves on half of their bodies, half of their stem, and that's always fun too. I like that.
Thank you.
What a great question. For us, I'm going to move you backstage. Keep the questions coming. We'll let some other students jump in. We'll come back to you. Our other friends at Green Street, 4J, you may be right across the hallway from the group we just saw, but I would love to invite you to unmute and ask your questions, please.
Why don't you find Arabidopsis in the wild often?
You can find it in the wild. It is obvious, it's not a plant that we made up, right? To Eurasia, so Europe and Asia. And so it's not very common in the United States for that reason, but I suppose it's just, I see it every single day. And when I go to conferences or with other groups of scientists, they all study Arabidopsis too. So it's like, we see it every day. We talk about it every day. You just feel like you should go out and see it like grass, And it's not impossible to find in the wild, but it's just like, it's definitely not as much as I talk about it,
Thank you.
We also have 2 bakery questions. We read your bread article.
Absolutely.
So, is it true when you go to a bakery, a good bakery in Germany, there are usually like wasps or bees on the bread and stuff?
I have seen this, yes, mostly in more outdoor stalls. I know what you're talking about. but I personally haven't found that to be such a big thing in Germany. I'm not sure if it's because I came at the beginning of fall, so it was kind of already past that.
Thank you.
What's your favorite type of like bread?
I really like, oh gosh, now you're putting me on the spot. I don't really like the really coarse dark breads that are very, very popular here. I think that maybe my sugary American soul is doesn't like how healthy it is. I think I prefer brioche bread. So the brioche breads are made with like butter and sometimes a little bit of sugar. So for instance, you saw the Weckmann that I sent in that one, the little man, that is like a type of brioche bread. It's a sweet bread.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent questions for Jay. We'll come back to you, okay, in just a couple minutes. Keep those questions coming. Excellent questions. I would like to welcome Miss Adams' class to our live stream today. Hello, Miss Adams' class. How are you today? Can we hear you? Oh, we can't hear you, but we can see you very well. Testing, testing. We'll wave. We'll wave for now. And you are unmuted, but for some reason we can't hear you. I'm sorry we can't hear you, Miss Adams. If you have some students who would like to ask Ellie a question, maybe you could type them in the chat, and we can send them to that way. Thank you so much for being here. We'll try again. So Ellie, you are what, about halfway through your time in Germany? Is that correct?
Not quite, I don't think. I was doing the math the other day, and I think I'm only a quarter, like a little bit like a quarter or something like this.
Okay, so you've got lots of time left, and that's wonderful. Do you have anything in your remaining time in Germany that you're just like super excited to check out? I know you're going to be there through lots of different seasons. What's on your list of things that you're really curious about and would like to explore while you're there?
So I don't know if you guys have heard of this holiday. It's called Carnival. It's like a May holiday. It happens in like the May springtime, and it seems to be a very fun, like almost like New Orleans type of holiday, where everybody gets up in masks. In the Hunchback of Notre Dame, they celebrate Carnival at the opening scene where everybody's up in masks, and it's like a big jubilee type of. I am excited to experience that for sure.
That sounds like a ton of fun. I would be looking forward to celebrating that too. What a good one. Well, we worked to get Miss Adams' audio going again. I'm going to bring our friends at 4S back because I can tell by the energy that they've got more questions and could probably ask you questions for the rest of the day. So 4S at Green Stew, please let us know who's got a burning question for Ellie. You're up.
I'm afraid.
I know possums and animals like that play dead. Do certain plants play dead too?
Yes, they do. This is a good. I think that a lot of people would be like, oh, well, plants don't play dead. Yes, of course they do. There is a type of plant. It's called the sensitive mimosa plant, and this plant, when you touch it, it goes droopy. So it goes like this, and that's basically they've hypothesized. They don't know for sure, of course, but they think that when an herbivore touches it and it goes droopy, it looks as yummy to the cow or something like this, whatever is eating it, and then it will leave it alone. But I think there are also lots of plants that fight back. I think there are a lot more plants that fight back than those who play dead. Because all the plants that have sharp spikes, or when you touch them and they hurt you, or when you eat them and they hurt you. There are even plants that they can sense when like a caterpillar is on them, and they a scent that not a scent that we can smell, but they release a scent that wasps can smell, or the natural predators of the caterpillars can smell, and it attracts the predators to eat the caterpillar on the. It attracts the predators to eat the caterpillar on the plant. Yeah.
That is serious. All right, Riley.
So what was like the plant that you like was the hardest to grow, or like that you didn't really like growing?
I grew some ginkgos from seed once, and that took me almost 2 months to get them to actually grow. And ginkgos are they're very hard to germinate normally. It's quite a famous thing about them, because they were originally, you've heard me say that they've been unchanged for so many years. They were evolved to go through the stomachs of dinosaurs, some hypotheses say. And so the stomach acid of the dinosaur would break it up. So you have to like really scrape it and file it down until the seed can actually escape from its pod. So that made it quite hard to grow. I was filing for a while.
That is amazing. I never thought we'd be talking about dinosaurs today, but the long history of plants is amazing and full of surprises. For us, is there anyone in the audience who just has like a burning question for Ellie that they really, really need to have answered? We'll take one more before we switch over to 4J.
Okay, go ahead, Remy.
What's the rarest plant you've ever found in the wild?
A jack in the pulpit, or a lady slipper. I'm not sure which one is rarer, but I have found both of these plants in the wild, and they're both quite rare. Or maybe rare is the wrong word, but just very hard to cultivate. So you can't really find them in garden stores very often because they are hard to cultivate. I didn't find it in the wild, but I remember once going to the Missouri Botanical Gardens, and we were there with a tour, a special tour, and we got to go behind the scenes, so to speak. And they had this room with water lilies in it. And the person told me that this water lily that was in front of me was the only surviving organism in that species. It was not endangered. It was basically, when that died, it was going to become extinct. A beautiful plant, and I was like, this is the only one in the entire world that exists. It blew my mind.
Wow, fabulous question. Thank you for us for the great questions. I'm going to sort of put through a question from Miss Adams' class. I know they switched classes, so it might not be the same people who asked as who's getting the answer now, but they, Ellie, were remembering that ginkgo is your favorite plant, or one of your favorite plants, trees. And they're just wondering if you have a favorite flowering plant.
My favorite flowering plant is hyacinths. Hyacinths are, you guys know, maybe a common spring flowering plant, where you got your daffodils or tulips, and hyacinths are another one. And I don't know why, I just love them a lot. I love their smell. They have such a strong smell, and I just think they're so fun. I'm not even a big fan of springtime because sometimes it's darker and wetter than I like, but I do enjoy the spring flowers for sure.
All right, that's a great choice. We're going to go back to Miss Copeland's class. Hello, 4J. Do we have any sort of a burst of 3 questions that you would like to ask Ellie?
We do have 3. 4 if there's time.
Absolutely, we can make 4 work.
Is there any tips planting seeds?
Tips for planting seeds. Okay, so you have to do your research, I think, because every plant is made in a slightly different climate for the most part, right? So if you're growing a plant like, let's say lettuce, this plant is adapted to wet environments. So it's going to want a lot of water when it germinates. But then if you're talking about like, I don't know, gosh, a seed that is in a hot environment, there are seeds, for instance, that will only germinate after fire has hit them. They have to be on fire before they will germinate. So you have to do your research. But I'd say generally, just keep it in wet, dark, cold conditions, and then put it in warm conditions. And then I think that you should have a pretty good shot.
Thank you.
Yeah, most plants, they go through winter.
Whichever one. Okay, sorry. Hold on. Yes, I go come out.
Are plants at all like humans? Like, do they have anything like a brain or a heart or something?
I think there is definitely more to explore there for sure. They have nervous systems in a way, not the way we do, but they have memory, they have ways to react. Like for instance, the plant that droops, they react to their environment. Plants can even have generational stress. So if you stress out the parent, then after it makes seeds, the resulting baby might be more resilient to stress. So I think that in a lot of ways, people say no, there's no central nervous system, there's no brain to a plant. But maybe this is, in my opinion, a little bit of a too narrow of a definition of intelligence or life.
Thank you. Is there like a step of plant mutation that like takes takes a lot of time or like a lot of work to like
When I mutate plants,
like to make it so you can?
I think that a lot of people, I think that what you have to understand is that you have to grow plants to flowering. You have to, then you can mutate the flowers. That's how you get mutated seeds. And then you have to grow those seeds to flowering and get seeds from them. And then you have to grow those seeds to flowering because most experiments, because sometimes it's not a complete mutation until it's gone through a couple generations. So most experiments or most scientists, you bring them data and they're like, what generation of mutation did you do this on? And you have to say T2 or T3. It has to be 2 or 3 generations before they'll be like, oh, okay, maybe it was mutated, you know? So that takes even a Arabidopsis, it's 6 weeks, right? But 3 generations of 6 weeks is a long time. So there's a lot of time where you just have to be sitting and waiting and doing other things, hopefully. I was doing some research on rice the other day, and rice takes 6 months from seed to flowering. So that's hard to get T3 seeds from. You're out of your school by then, you know?
It sounds like you have to be very patient to be a plant researcher, and you have to wait and just wait until you have the answers. Great question. Do we have a fourth question from Green Street?
We do have one more.
Okay. Do you think that plants have a consciousness or a sentience? Do you think so?
I don't think they have it in the same way that we have it, for sure. I think that in a lot of ways, okay, how about this? Maybe this is a better way of answering. I've never seen a plant with a personality. How about this? And I think that our consciousness, our sentience is based in individuality. We have personalities, we have different skills, things like this. Plants, they have different skills. Sometimes but it's usually species dependent, and they don't really have personalities. You're not going to find, a plant putting you through the ringer, like being like, no, I'm not going to give you that good data today, like a mouse would or a cat would, So I think that in a lot of ways they are intelligent, but maybe not conscious.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
What a good and interesting question. I really like the questions that are coming from our students today.
It's getting so meta in here.
I know. I'm thinking it's making me think about plants very differently too. Great questions, everyone. I'm going to ask Ellie a question from Miss Adams' students on their behalf. Do you know anything about plants that don't photosynthesize due to symbiotic relationships?
Yes.
Maybe for our younger audiences, you can explain what that question means too.
So plants photosynthesize to get energy from the sun, and symbiosis is a type of relationship between different plants or plants and animals where they live very closely together and they can't live without each other, so to speak. This is not the strict definition, but it's generally the slang definition. So in science, we have different terms for each of these, but usually people just say, do they live close together? They're symbiotic. And if they're both benefiting, then they're symbiotic. And if they're not both benefiting, then it's parasitic. So I do know of cases where symbiosis allows for plants to not photosynthesize. I can't think of any particular examples, but I do know of a couple types of like algae that will grow on plants. I don't know of any examples off the top of my head, but parasitism, definitely. You remember me talking about mistletoe. Mistletoe is semi-symbiotic, so it is green. It does photosynthesize, but it only photosynthesizes sometimes when it doesn't have enough energy from its host plant that it's taking the energy from. So that's where mistletoe is doing better than the host plant. And there is a type of plant, it's called, its name just recently changed a couple of years ago because it was considered to be racist or not good, but it's a type of mushroom that is white. It's perfectly white, but this is it has a symbiotic relationship with some fungi that live under the soil. So the fungi live under the soil, and then there's a plant that comes up and it looks like a mushroom and it's all white. It doesn't photosynthesize. And I think that's really cool. Whenever I see that in the wild, I'm like, oh my gosh, that doesn't even look like a plant. It looks like a mushroom or maybe just like some type of strange stalagmite. I don't know.
Very interesting. Great question for Miss Adams students. Thank you so much for that great question. We have, there's a lot going on in schools these days. And I know like our students have been so patient and sort of sitting and watching and listening and asking these great questions. We have a couple more questions to go. I hope that's all right with everybody before we say goodbye to Ellie. I want to loop in a couple of questions from Miss Lake's class. They would like to know, I can even bring it up here. They said, we saw that you visited a national park in Germany. Which is your favorite national park in the United States?
Oh, I feel like I don't really have a choice. I have to say Sequoia. I think Crater Lake has a special place in my heart. I loved Crater Lake, and I loved seeing all the cold-adapted plants there. But there's just something about the sequoias. Sequoias are this type of tree, and they grow like, I don't even know how wide they grow. Ask your professor to pull up a picture. These trees, you can drive cars through them. It's amazing, and they only grow in a very small part of California, and that's like the specialist thing ever. I love it.
What a great question and great follow-up thing for everyone who's listening. After you leave us today, go Google sequoias and see if it's possible, even possibly true, that you could drive a car through a tree. I'm trying to envision what that looks like, and I hope you get to see that too. Another question from Miss Lake's class. Do cactus plants actually hold water inside?
They do. And I have something to tell you guys, and this is going to make you upset, but all plants hold water inside.
What?
Cactus plants have a modified cell type that holds more water than a normal cell type. But really what's special about cactus plants is that they don't have, how do I say this? They have a different kind of photosynthesis. So you say, okay, sun, energy, photosynthesis, sugar, good, plants. But there are actually like a couple different kinds of photosynthesis. And cactus plants in particular, they close their, they have holes. Like we have holes, our cells, we have pores in our skin, and they also have pores in their surface, in their leaves and their stems, and they close them during the day, and that stops the water from going away. So they do hold water. They do hold a little bit more than water than deciduous plants, but really the main thing that makes them drought tolerant is that they close their pores.
Very interesting. Very cool. Great question, Miss Lake students. We have one more question from Miss Lake students. They're a little late to join us today, but I want to make sure they get their questions answered. This one is about how many plants are in your lab. If you could estimate, are there 5, are there 10, are there a million?
Several thousand at least. In my lab, okay, how about this? For scale, I do experiments of 400 plants. That's about normal for me. 400 plants is about normal. And then you have to ask how many other people are doing experiments, and sometimes I have 2 or 3 are going at once. A lot of plants.
It does
because in science you need replicates. You need to do things in more than once so that you can see where, like, what is due to random chance. So you need to do it in a lot of different times and a lot of different plants to make sure that what you're seeing is a typical trend.
All right. Very, very good. Thank you for those great questions. And there was one other question on here, which is, what is the oldest known plant? I think we covered that. Is that the ginkgo? The oldest known plant?
Well, this is not the oldest. This is not the first plant. And this is ginkgos are not the first plant. That's the first thing. So oldest, are you talking about the oldest living plant that's now, or the oldest species? Or like this we know of. Ooh.
Yep,
Sorry.
I don't know what that is. Maybe Miss Lake's students can provide some clarity. You're asking whether it's the oldest plant that exists today or the first plant that existed ever? Is that what you're asking? They're clarifying species. What's the oldest species of plant?
The oldest species of plant, I suppose it depends on what you consider a plant. How about this? If you look at algae, this is one of the earliest kinds of photosynthetic organisms. But do we call it a plant? This is the topic of great debate. This is a great debate. And then after that, they go to ferns. So ferns are the first like plant type plant. Like it's got a vascular system, probably algae, moss, ferns. And then you start getting like conifers and stuff.
Excellent. All right. Well, maybe one of our students in the audience today will become a great plant researcher like you, and they will find more information and solve that question once and for all.
I would love that. I would love that. And then they can stop telling me that doing research on algae isn't plant research, and I would enjoy that too.
Great. An easy way to help Ellie out, everyone. You can solve that question. While we have our students, I know that everybody's going to be moving on to other things. I want to bring all our classrooms on stage here real quick and have a chance just to say goodbye
Oh my
It's Ellie. We have learned. All right, hold on a second, classrooms. I'm going to mute you just for a second. I'm going to say we have learned so much from Ellie over the course of the last weeks. I personally am inspired to go out and look at all the plants around me and rethink everything I thought I knew about plants. And I know that that is something you've been experiencing too. I just want to thank you all for joining us. And while we still have you on camera, can I unmute you for like a big thank you? Do you think, but wait, before I unmute you, this is what I want to do. Because Ellie is in Germany, does anyone remember how we say thank you in German? No? Okay. Ellie, maybe you can start by telling us how to say thank you very much or thank you in German.
Dankeschön. Or just Danke for short.
All right, let's take the easier version to start, and then maybe we'll go more advanced. I'm going to unmute you, Green Street friends. Can you all say Danke, Ellie? Excellent. Well,
and then my response would, of course, be Bitteschön.
Bitteschön. Excellent. Well, Green Street friends and Ms. Adams class, thank you so much for joining us live today. I'm going to finish with a couple more questions, but I know you all are moving on with your day, and I wanted to catch you before you leave us today. It's so nice to have you here. Ellie, before we let you go, I have just question for you about your life in Germany. You're coming up on the holidays as well. Your family's already come to visit you. How are you going to celebrate the holidays in Germany?
I just have made a bunch of friends here, and we're going to get together and exchange gifts and maybe go on a nature walk or two. I've been trying to convince some people to go out with me in the cold and look at some plants.
That sounds exactly right as what I thought might be happening. But just to clear it up, Ellie, to no surprise of anyone, is going to go looking for plants over the holidays, and we hope you find some really good ones. And Ellie, just to wrap things up, we have to wrap it up, unfortunately, and send these amazing students onto their holiday break. But we can't go with, just for me, another huge thank you for all of the inspiration you've given us to look at the world of plants differently, to notice the plants in our life, and just to appreciate the incredible world of plants. So Auf Wiedersehen, thank you so much. Educators, thank you so much for joining Reach the World's Explorer program, virtual exchange. We loved having you and your students on this journey with us. And if you're looking for your next Explorer program journey, I'm going to put up a link here where you can see and find all of our upcoming Explorer program journeys. We are going to move on from plants. Sadly, I know that we didn't talk about a fraction. We talked only about a fraction of the topics we could have covered in the world of plants, but I can't imagine a better expert and explorer than Ellie has been for us. So Ellie, thank you so much. I hope you have a great holiday, and Auf Wiedersehen.
Thank you. You too. Ciao, ciao.